One you really have to decide whether you agree with or not. Her opponent in this primary campaign, who has been incredibly inspiring, basically says you ought to be for him because he was not involved in making good things happen or stopping bad things from happening in the 1990s or this decade, that we need to make a change, and the only way you can make a change is if you just start again. And that anybody who did anything before, especially if they had to fight to get it done to help you, should be disqualified from being president. And that argument has been so persuasive, it's eliminated everybody but Hillary running. But I want you to think about this. This is the only area of our national life where such an argument would be taken seriously. Right? You wouldn't take this seriously in any other area of national life. For example, suppose somebody said, well, all medical malpractice is committed by doctors, right? And we need to change that. So we're going to have now all surgery done by chefs. Now, I'm not doing that, I'm not being, I say that not to denigrate Senator Obama, I don't mean that. I just mean that you can't argue that your record as a change maker disqualifies you from making change. It qualifies you if you've spent a lifetime making changes for other people. Look, when Hillary and I were in law school, most kids couldn't wait to get out of law school and go make money. Not her. She spent another year. Why? Because at that time, the young people here find this hard to believe, there were no protections in American law against child abuse and neglect. No, there weren't. Hillary would come home and talk to me after a day's working at the hospital there and say, Bill, there are people being brought in here with cigarette burns in their arm, kids that haven't been fed in 10 days, and it's apparently not against the law. We can't go stop this. So she took another year, and they came up with guidelines to change the law. Now, in every state in America, there are protections against that. I think that's a qualification, not a disqualification. And when she got out of law school, she went to work. She could have had all these big paying jobs. She took a low paying job with the Children's Defense Fund and knocked on the doors of people's houses to find out why their kids weren't in school, and most of them had minor disabilities. This was before we had the special education law. Yep. So the report she filed led to the passage of this law that gave a guarantee of an equal and appropriate public education to all of our kids without regard to their disabilities. I think that's an argument to elect somebody president, not to not elect him. I think the fact that you have changed people's lives. When I was the governor, she oversaw our school reform program in a rural state, and an expert who once said that we had the worst schools in America said under her leadership, we were one of the 2 states improving our schools the most. I don't think that should disqualify you from being president. I think that's a qualification for being president. When I was president, Hillary led our efforts to double the number of adoptions of kids coming from foster homes into permanent adoptive homes, to expand the Children's Health Insurance Program, create the Children's Health Insurance Program, the biggest healthcare expansion since Medicare. 6 million kids got healthcare under it. To immunize 90% of our children against serious diseases for the first time. I don't think that should disqualify you. I think that's a qualification for being president because it's making positive changes in other people's lives. And she has, as I said earlier, passed a phenomenal amount of legislation with bipartisan support. She and John McCain, who she very much liked, have taken Republicans from all over America to the hot spots of the world to show them that global warming is real. We now have a bipartisan consensus to save the planet for the young people here in this audience. I think that's a qualification for being president, not a disqualification. So you just have to decide that. And I think she got the better side of that argument. And the final thing I want to say is this. You better elect a president who won't forget the look I see in your eyes right now. Because it's easy to forget, once you get elected president, what people look like at election time. Have you noticed how in both the Republican and Democratic parties, all the candidates got better at the debates as they went on? You know why? Because of you. And people like you. Every 4 years, the American people sing a different song at election time. All their hopes and dreams and fears and their profoundest aspirations and their anger and their happiness, everything's going on in America comes out at election time. And in this election, it's been amazing. We've had this huge turnout of voters in participation, not only because the last two survivors in this campaign have run great campaigns, but because you know we need to change this country, don't you? You know that. You know that your future is not secure unless we do. But once you get in, if you're not very careful, if you get to be president, you can think you are somebody. And you're not. You're just the world's most fortunate hired hand. That's all you are. And it passes fast. But look, think about what being president's like. They play Hail to the Chief every time you walk in a room. They play a song every time you walk in a room. I was lost for 3 weeks after I left the White House because no one played a song anymore. I didn't know where I was. We're laughing, but look, Washington, D.C. is a nightmare, a traffic nightmare. For everybody but the president. You zip along in a bulletproof limo. You don't even stop for a red light.
No, you don't.
You have no commute to work in the most famous office in the world. You live in America's finest public housing. Your airplane is so cool, they make movies about it. Now we're laughing, but you get the point, don't you? If you forget, even for a minute, that you're nothing more than the most fortunate public servant on earth, the consequences can be terrible. Look at the way all of us felt as Americans about the way Hurricane Katrina was handled.
Oh, yeah.
And look at the damage that was done. This is not a partisan remark. No. There were plenty of Republicans who loved President Bush who could have done a fine job managing the emergency management situation and taking care of those people. But none of them got the job because they forgot about the human side of this job. And somebody who was a political crony rather than somebody who was committed to helping people when they were down and out got that job.